Welcome to another edition of We Need to Talk About Movies, brought to you by Banterflix.com. And now, here's your host, Jim McLean.
Hello. Yes, I am indeed your host, Jim McLean, the editor-in-chief of the Banterflix Movie Review website. Welcome to the latest episode of our podcast, We Need to Talk About Movies. If you've been listening to us for a while, then thank you for continuing to check in and listen to the show. If, however, this is your first time checking out the pod, then welcome to the madness, dear listener. You might be wondering right now what this podcast is all about. You might be wondering who the hell are Banterflix. Well, allow me to answer those questions for you as best I can. Banterflix is a Northern Irish-based film review website. We have our own TV show on NVTV here in Belfast, and we regularly run events in the city. Remember events? Hopefully we'll be able to get back to doing those pretty soon. But for our podcast, the content we create is quite eclectic, and we try our best to cover a little bit of everything. We do, of course, talk about new releases. We talk about cult classics. We have a monthly series devoted to talking about old Disney movies. We have a monthly series devoted to talking about real-life serial killer movies, if that floats your boat. We also have a monthly series of podcasts where we talk to cosplayers and talk about the movies that have inspired them to get into cosplay. It's one of our newest features, and I have to say it's a lot of fun. It's proved already to be really popular. And yeah, we try to have a bit of everything. We do have special guests from time to time. We do spoiler specials. You know, there's a bit there for everyone, and hopefully you enjoy. If this is your first time listening to the pod and you enjoy what you listen to, don't forget to subscribe wherever you get your podcasting fix to make sure you never miss an episode. And you might even want to check out our website, www.banterflix.com, because there you'll find not only the back catalogue of this podcast, but also our aforementioned TV show on NVTV. So I think that's enough of me trying to sell our wares. I think we'll get stuck into this week's podcast. This week we're going to be talking about Coming to America, which has recently landed on Amazon Prime here in the UK. And I thought I'd gather together the members of The Sixth Sense, a Northern Irish comedy troupe. They've been on this pod before, and if you've listened to them before, you'll know to expect some choice language, but it's all just a bit of fun. The episode is roughly about an hour and 40 minutes in length. We talk quite a bit, unsurprisingly, about Coming to America. We also talk about John Landis' 1988 original, and the guys and I also talk about Eddie Murphy as a performer, not just on the big screen, but also as a stand-up comedian. So it's a lot of fun. I genuinely really enjoyed this episode, and hopefully you'll enjoy listening to it too. Before you hear my chat with The Sixth Sense about the film, let's play a clip of Coming to America.
General Izzy, what a totally unexpected surprise.
King Akeem, I have come to give you congratulations for locating one of your lost spurs. I too wonder about my own stray bullets.
Thank you for your kind words.
So that's a clip of Coming to America, which is available on Amazon Prime now. And I'm joined by a group of lads that we haven't had on together for quite some time. We know they're a group of sickos. And we were just talking before this recording began that it's almost a year since I had the pleasure of their company. And after reminiscing on that, I think a year is just not long enough. But I am joined by Andy, Bill, Stephen, Chris, aka Cax, from The Sixth Sense. So hello to you all, gentlemen.
What up? Evening, sir.
How are you, Jim?
I'm good. That was very middle-class Protestant voice there, Stephen
No,
Barrett.
I was getting my full Paddy Raff on there.
Oh, Stephen, you'll be getting your own
out.
TV show now on BBC.
No.
But Stephen, can you do as many characters as Paddy Raff?
Oh, no, I'm not that talented, mate.
Those characters?
There's something.
There you go. But anyway, gentlemen, we're going to be here. We're going to be talking about Coming to America, the sequel that has been long muted for quite a long time to the John Landis 1988, if I'm right, original, starring Arsenio Hall, Eddie Murphy, and Cohen, both of them in quite a few roles. And Bill, I'm going to come to you as someone who's been on this pod the most. tell our listeners and our viewers as well, because we are doing these as video pods as well now. Give them as much as you think they need to know about Coming to America. Not the original, the sequel. It's just out.
Basically, Sandra Bullock gets on this bus, and
No.
not that one.
No, wrong.
Sorry.
Well,
Kate Winslet, she
No.
lies on the sofa, and Leo,
Not even close.
not
Bill-
the right one.
Bill, the first film you were thinking about there was
Luke
the bus.
Skywalker is in the X.
Not it.
No,
No.
is that the wrong one?
No, the
All right,
the first
all
film
right,
you were
all
thinking
right,
about, Bill.
seriously,
The first film you were talking about there was the bus that wouldn't slow down.
the
Not
bus that wouldn't stop.
yeah,
Uh, Um, That's
a great name, man. That was a better
It
name.
is.
yeah.
All right, so you've got basically 33 years have passed. Prince Akeem is living happily in Zamunda with his bride and his 3 lovely daughters. And essentially, the king is dying, and Eddie Murphy needs to find an heir. And it turns out that he does actually have a son in Queens.
Yeah.
So he has to go and try and get the son, because if he doesn't, then Wesley Snipes, he's going to come and start a war and take over. And Wesley Snipes is the general in the is it the city of Nextdoria or something? And yeah, that's pretty much it. It's one of those kind of quest films. We also get a wee bit of a fish out of water. The reverse side of that, we also get a bit of bit of what it's like to get older and stuff as well. It is a comedy. So yeah, go watch it.
Yeah, I think the only thing I would add as a caveat to what you said there, to all your various introductions to all the films we're talking about, or all the films you've mentioned there, is the key thing is that he needs to find a male heir.
Yes,
that's because
needs to find a male heir rather than a female heir, because that's the way to do it in Zamunda. So yes, pretty much on his deathbed, King Joffrey says, "Look, you need to find," and it's like, all right, fair enough.
Yeah, and don't go looking to Wakanda either. Don't.
No.
There is a lot of jokes there. So I think we'll kind of go round the room here. We've all seen this, and I'll start with you first. I'll start with Cax first. So Cax, generally, without getting too much into spoilers or into too much specifics about the plot, generally, what was your thoughts about watching the film?
Oh boy, it was kind of yeah. It was look. It's a nice wee trip down nostalgia lane, and if I had the bullet point, that would be it. There's not really much more to go on. Like, I'm obviously we're not going to do spoilers here for the listeners and whatnot, but it was just, hey, look, there's Prince Akeem and there's Sammy Baggett, and that's awesome. And there's the castle from Zamunda, and all this is style. And the one over the Paramount sign in the Zamunda again, that's awesome. And you had Lady Blacksmith Mombasa and all the start. And it's like, oh, isn't this nice? And then slowly but surely you realize, oh, I forgot the jokes. Fuck. So that was kind of it for me, man. It was kind of the running joke throughout the film was they forgot to put in the comedy. A lot of heart, no comedy. So it just, with the whole the male heir coming out, oh, you have to get the kids in here. The whole thing stank to me of what happened with Zoolander, what happened with basically any long-awaited sequels that put the kids in. I'm fearful for this Ghostbusters movie because let's put the kids in, and I think it's a sure sign for a failure at the minute, man, which doesn't bode well. So this to me was that down that line. What happened with Zoolander? What happened with Anchorman? And movies like that where they had a kid. Dumb and Dumber was another good example of it. Oh, he has a kid, and never works out well. And as soon as you find out the plot, and then Jones had informed me recently that it wasn't going to be a teens. Not that most movies are a teens these days, but it was PG-13. You're like, oh dear. And that was it, man. So without rambling too much, it didn't really it was just a big nostalgia trip. And that's pretty much all it was for me.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of what you said. You know, it did feel like a much more child friendly. You know, compared to when you think of the first one had edge, and I think
Oh yeah.
the one thing I would say, and I guess we're going to come back to this. You know, we're all in this pod right now. We're, you know, the five of us here. We're all five white guys. You know, and I said this about Black Panther, and I'm going to be very careful as I can be. I think looking back, because I was reading a thing in the BBC News website about the first coming to America, where it was described as a black fairy tale, and you're like, yeah, okay. And I suppose, you know, people of all color and race want to see them represented on screen, and I guess that's why a film like Coming to America was so important back then. And you can see that legacy of the amount of people they have got involved, and a lot of cameos. We have, you know, well, I'll throw a few out here. We have Trevor Noah. We have, I think, John Legend's there in the trailer, in the post credits. We have Morgan Freeman. We have, is it Gladys Knight as well? I don't want to wreck. I think that's the bulk of the big ones that I kind of got. But there's a lot of goodwill towards this. But I think you've hit the nail on the head for me, Cax. I didn't find it funny enough. I didn't find it sharp enough. And I always come back to that argument. When you've had so long to work on a project like this, the jokes have to be there. And you've raised a really good point about comedy sequels, and I will come back to that. But before we do, I'll come to you, Stephen. You know, what are you kind of going to be more positive? Are you going to be more negative? Or are you in a similar kind of boat to
more negative, man? It was a massive disappointment. I just didn't like it at all. The thing that disappointed you, I agree totally with Cax. Just felt like, hey, look at this part. No, look, there's another character coming back, and it just felt like one of those shows where it was like, look, this isn't a film, guys. There's no story. The storyline is as weak as I've ever seen a storyline. I think it was very lazily written as well, and you know, you were saying about, you know, the black version. It felt like you know, an Adam Sandler type movie. You know, the late Adam Sandler type movies of, I've got my kids here, and I've got this. It just felt, this isn't the Eddie Murphy again. I suppose it's like, you know, he's got older and it's all that there, but it didn't have the edge of an Eddie Murphy movie. And the thing about Coming to America, the original, was there was a great story. You know, it doesn't need to be, they were trying to do a gag a minute that fell flat in its ass. But sometimes you can watch a comedy movie, it doesn't need to be laughing at every 2 seconds. And to be honest with you, how many dance sequences were there in this fucking movie? I mean, it was like every 2 minutes it was a dance sequence. It was like to do a dance every time you just walk into that room. So
call it Abdul back to choreograph or something. What was going on?
It was just constant, man. So, you know, and even like the barbershop bit was a disappointment to me. The Leslie Jones bits, that was the only part I kind of laughed at. I really laughed at was the Leslie Jones bit with the beavers, and your guy came up between her legs. And I thought that was kind of, I sort of raised a smile. But
did you not think it was signposted though?
Oh no,
I
absolutely.
Mean, I think you're right. There wasn't that many jokes in. Well, not really many that were really sort of belly laughs, and when they were signposted. You could see them coming.
Even and again, I don't want to spoiler. You know, it's to find the male heir. I called the movie within the first 15 minutes. So I was like, I know what's going to happen. You know, it's and how it ended, but it almost like, and it happened. So again, the resolve of what happened, or is that the word? Anyway, how it was all resolved was kind of like, oh well, here, by the way, here it is, it's happened, and here it is, and by the way, here's sexual chocolate, you know. You know, which I loved. I had a smile on my face when we seen Randy Watson. I was fucking delighted about that. But
and an Elvis onesie too. And an Elvis onesie.
See, that got me. That was brilliant. I loved that ending, and it kind of was like, yes. But again, it
You
was
notice?
more of a. It wasn't. I don't. I don't count this as a movie. I count this as, guys. It's just we're going to see all the people you wanted to see from the first film. It felt like a TV special. You know, it was like, here they are. Sorry, I'm going on them.
But Stephen, did you not tear up when a certain elephant character popped up again, and you were like,
Babar?
"Oh, yeah," you were just like, that gets you in the feels. I think you're right. Again, this is a bad pod because I'm not really disagreeing with you. I come back to, I think the jokes aren't sharp enough, but I think it does have its heart in the right place, and I think there's been a will to get it made. I just think they haven't went back and kind of looked back and said, right, I suppose it's that there's that thing where you can't really get away with half the stuff that you did. Because let's be honest, right? Let's hold our hands up here and say, you look back at Eddie Murphy's like delirious stand-up routine.
Oh,
Now in the 2021 audience, you've got to sit there and just go, whoa. I was listening to I bought the Adam Buxton audiobook, and he's talking about that, and he's talking about how much he loved Eddie Murphy, and he's like, just a couple of years ago he put it on and he was like, whoa, hang on, you just couldn't get away with that now. So I get there's a sense that you have to soften the sharpness, but go on ahead, Stephen.
Sorry, no, it's I get what you're saying, man, but again, I go back to story. The story was lazily done. It was, the coming to America. I don't remember too many things. I went, I've watched it. How many times I've watched that movie? And no, man, I just think it's to do with it. The writing was kind of like, let's just do that. Let's make a few quid. People love nostalgia. Let's just do this. That to me was the biggest. That's why I'm really disappointed, because this felt like it really was. They didn't try.
Yeah, well, I think wasn't this originally? I think Eddie Murphy was planning to create a stage play or a musical of the original Coming to America. So that makes sense why there's so many musical segments in there that have been put in. I didn't have an issue with them, but it did feel like it was just filler.
Yeah,
and stretching it out. But we'll come back to that. Jones, what about you? Where are you going to weigh in? I know you're someone who is a massive Eddie Murphy fan, and I know you were looking forward to this. So are you going to be the same with Cax and Stephen here?
Yeah, I think so, man. Like I watched it the first day it came out. When was that? Last Friday? And I rewatched it again today, just to kind of, see if I enjoy it anymore. Yeah, you guys are right. Like the jokes weren't there. Some of them look great. Like they don't look like they've aged 33 years since things. So that's a positive. But they even tried to get Eric LaSalle back in, and he went, nah, mate. Like he's just like, nah. He probably read the script and went, nah, not for me. Like, so he never came back. And then Samuel L. Jackson, who was supposed to come back, and he was too busy to come back as well. But yeah, I didn't particularly warm to any of the scenes with Eddie's son. You know what I mean? I didn't really feel for him at all. Like, I was just like, he was just, I don't know, he kind of bored me a little bit. And then he was crying about stuff. And you're like, come on, dude, this is supposed to be a comedy. Like, stop the yapping, get on with it. Like, so I didn't really dig that guy. The funniest bits for me, I thought there was a few good lines in the barbershop, whenever you've seen the barbershop boys again. And some of the facial reactions that Eddie made throughout a few scenes. So clearly that wasn't story. That was just, facial reactions. That's just reacting to a line or something that's happening. So if that's where you're getting the funniest bits, clearly the writing's wrong. You know what I mean? There's not enough jokes in there. For me, I was laughing more at his reactions to things, because Eddie, and he never even done the look to camera, which I was hoping for.
Oh, he did.
He did it once.
He did, and he did it. But again, it was a no. The weird thing about it was a callback. Yeah. Because it's near the end, and it's kind of a similar incident to when he looks to camera in the first Coming to America, and he does it again, and you're like, okay.
Yeah.
There's a thing I want to talk about with Eddie Murphy, And I think it might be a similar kind of conversation that we went down when we talked about Steve Martin. Because going back, okay, I mentioned there's stuff about like some of Eddie Murphy's early stand-up routine that you just wouldn't do now, but there's a performer that is electric and you just want to watch him. Whilst now in 2021, you might not necessarily say, oh, this is uncomfortable. You would not be able to talk about homosexuality and HIV now than when you would back in the 80s. But he is an electrifying, energetic performer. And I want to come back to that because there is a thing about that I do want to discuss. But Bill, we haven't had a chance to hear your thoughts. And I know from talking to you on the Messenger, you seem to be the most positive here. You might be the person where we might spark a little bit of, proper arguments here in this pod.
It's a dark day if I have to come and save it, to be honest. That's one of the harbingers of the apocalypse, that I think. Look, I'm not going to say it's the greatest comedy ever, because it isn't, right? All I know is, as a viewer, just sitting down in the living room and watching it, especially during this shitty lockdown time, I really enjoyed it. I thought, I mean, you guys are saying that there wasn't jokes and stuff in there. Well, I was laughing now, whether I was laughing because, there was something on screen or maybe there's a slow gas leak in the house. I don't know. That's up for the audience to decide. But listen, I think, Cax, you nailed it on the head. All these, essentially all these remakes, or not remakes, all these sequels coming out way after the time. It's a similar thing that kind of happened with Star Wars. Here we go again.
He's gonna bring
He's going there. He's going there. Remember when Force Awakens came out? Who said all this stuff when Force Awakens came out? This guy. I did, right? And
hold on, guys. How long did you have, Jones? 20 minutes?
20 minutes in.
Wars? I mean, what?
I get the money.
All these films have something common, and that is they're not for us, right? That's the thing. This film, its target audience isn't us. I'm sorry to bring it to people. It's not for us, right?
I'll
tell you why.
Okay.
Here we go.
Oh, we know you're going to tell us why, Bill. You're not going to stop. You're on a roll now.
I know. The main character in that film is not Prince Akeem. The main character in that film is his son. That's why. And I figured this out really quickly on into the film, and I think that's maybe why I enjoyed it. Is that I made my peace with this. Isn't about Eddie Murphy's character. The whole purpose of films is we watch a character, they have a problem or predicament, they go through some sort of journey to try and resolve it, and then they find what they were looking for at the end. To be honest, Akeem got his journey in the first film. This film isn't necessarily Akeem's journey. Yes, he does grow as a person, but not, he's like in his 40s and his 50s. He ain't gonna grow that much. So it's not his film. It's not his story. It's the son's story. And I really enjoyed. I see, when you look at it from that point of view, I really enjoyed it.
Can I add one caveat to that? Because
absolutely,
the thing I found, and it was one thing I did note when I was watching it, the Akeem that we see in this film seems like such a different Akeem that we saw at the end. And they make the reference, and you're kind of going, okay, have they just written Akeem in this way just to suit the narrative? Because
it's again, that's one of the things we find out as we grow up, and that is we try our damnedest. I don't know about you, Stevie, but you'll probably agree. We try our damnedest to do things differently than our parents did. We do. As parents, we do. We try to do things differently. And then you realize as time goes on that you might have done things differently, but you've turned into the same person that your parents turned into. I find that a lot. I say things in the house that my dad or my mum would have said. And it's like, and I think that's what's happened here. That's Akeem has turned into his dad, essentially.
Yeah.
Because, and again, whether it's lazy writing or whether it's just a mechanism to get in, spoiler alert and all that sort of stuff. But the simple answer to get an heir, it just comes, it's literally just right there. It's like, you're the king. You married a commoner when it was illegal because your dad changed the rules.
Yeah.
Can you not do the same? And
I
they
get
could do that really early on.
I get
really
that.
early on.
And I know they make a reference to the fact, because the actress who played Akeem's mother has sadly passed away, and thankfully they didn't try to recast that role. They acknowledge that she's passed, and I think that becomes later on a big kind of plot point. Without going too spoiler, if it can kind of say, like, what would your mother have said in all this?
Yeah.
I do have issues in the fact, and there's a couple of things I want to pick up, Bill, on what you said, then I'll throw it out to the rest of you guys. I did have an issue watching it, kind of going, this didn't feel like the Akeem that we left at the end of the first film. And I get what you're saying, Bill, about how we change and we kind of slowly become our parents. I'm not a parent myself. I know that's happening to me. I find myself kind of, as you said, saying stuff that my mum or my dad would say. But I kind of felt, he's a father of 3 daughters. And it was an issue for me that it took this issue about, a possible male heir and discovering this male heir for him to then discover, going into spoiler territory, that actually, I know I want to change the rules of my country. I feel that they should have done either or. I think they should have done a film where it's kind of talking about him wanting to have changed the rules, or, being against changing the rules and saying this is tradition, and then coming to see things differently, or had no daughters and had this illegitimate male heir. Those 2 separate plots, I think it seems to me like they've had 2 different ideas in the kind of the build up for the plot, and they've just mushed them together. It didn't work for me, and I have issues with the fact that it takes.
To be honest, see something that when I saw it on screen, that kind of issue made me sort of go, really? This is 2021. Why are we still talking about this sort of thing?
Mm-hmm.
This sort of thing, it shouldn't be a thing. This should not be a plot point. This should be just as it is.
Yeah.
It kind of threw me a wee bit, to be honest. That bit.
But I will also say as well, when you mentioned about Star Wars, because I knew at some point you'd reference Star Wars, when I was thinking about this film, I don't know if any of you have seen, or all of you have seen Jay & Silent Bob Reboot. There's a plot where they take the piss when they go, right, remember that film where they have to blow up the spaceship and this, that, and they go, yeah, it's Star Wars. No, that's Force Awakens. I could feel myself in my head kind of going, like, you could do the exact same thing. Remember when Akeem goes to America, or when someone's coming to a country he doesn't quite understand and has to get to know the customs? Because there's stuff like when Akeem's bastard son, as they keep saying, his bastard heir, when he comes and he's introduced to a hairdresser, and you just know.
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as what's going to happen, right, I know where that's going to go. But anyway, look, let's, Stephen, Jones, Cax, I'm going to throw it open to you all. Feel free to kind of interject, picking up on what I've said, what Bill said, and just kind of what collectively we've said so far in this pod about the film.
Can I just jump in really quickly? So you've got this guy, Jermaine Fowler, is played Lavelle, Eddie's son. Handsome dude, done all right with what he had to work with. However, what I was thinking is, now I'm not saying this guy's the be all and end all, but he would have worked in here. Kevin Hart, you stick him in there as Eddie Murphy's son. Kevin Hart does his thing. At least you're going to get a fucking joke or two. This guy, obviously, I don't know what he is, whether he's an actor or a comedian or whatever. No comedy chops. He's
too old.
He done a decent enough job.
Too old.
But then when they
were trying to get Tracy Morgan to do it.
Morgan, but
he's too old.
Eddie Murphy's 85 years old. You could have got away with Kevin.
He's 105 years old.
He's got not to just throw in, but he's got 10 kids. I only realized this, that Eddie Murphy's 10 kids. It's like, Jesus, fair play, Eddie.
Mel B's got one of them.
He's another one hanging out in Queens somewhere as well.
Well, no, it's just,
Sorry, you broke up there. He's got one hanging out of the Queen.
That's what I thought he said.
And do you know what? In the week that we're recording, let's not go there.
In the week, yeah.
You know, I don't want to end up with a bad case of death on the order of Philip. You know, just when we're talking ill. Can I throw out, right? And I'm going to be interested to see what you all think of this. When I was watching, now I know there's kind of like you're playing the character, and Akeem's not the kind of more energetic. Like, he's not an Axel Foley type character. He is a very straight character. When you look back in the first one, he's like that. But I find Eddie Murphy, when he's not in the makeup as, you know, the Barbers or as Randy Watson, and I think there's a couple of different guys, or the Jewish guy in the barber shop, there was no energy at all from his performance, unless he's in prosthetics. So you get a sense that, you know, maybe the film to be made from this is kind of something that's focused on Randy Watson. I would have paid to see that. I would have watched that. I don't know about you. Did you find that? And it reminded me a bit of the conversation we had when we had you all on the pod before, talking about Steve Martin. And we look at Steve Martin when he was younger, the energy in his performance. We think of Little Shop of Horrors, which I think at the time we all agreed was just comedy gold. And we think of other stuff. You think of Eddie Murphy as a performer. I think I'm maybe fixated too much on Delirious. He's an energetic guy, but even when you see him interviewed now, he doesn't seem that type of person. But you throw that guy under makeup, you know, I know it's not a great film, stuff like Norbit, The Nutty Professor, The Clumps, all that stuff. He seems to be someone who loves kind of descending into kind of prosthetics and a character, and that seems to get a performance out of him. But I find him just such a, I'll be honest, a dour bastard as Akeem in this. And I don't know, I mean, feel free, because I'll come to you first, Jones, because you are the person that I know is the biggest Eddie Murphy. Well, I could be wrong, but I would imagine out of all of us here is the biggest Eddie Murphy fan. Did you have that as was that something you were conscious of when you were watching this, that is this a case for Eddie Murphy that this is a money maker for me? It didn't feel like a performance that there was any real gusto in it. It felt like, you know, Dr. Dolittle 2. I'm in it just to kind of, because there's money involved. I could be wrong, Eddie. I'm sorry if you're watching, but I didn't get sense. I didn't get a sense that this was. He talks about it being a project that he wanted to make for so long, but I didn't get any sense of urgency, any sense of. I compare this. I don't know if any of you seen Dolomite Is My Name, directed by the same guy. He's fucking immense in that. He's immense in that. And then you see this, and you just go, right, okay, is this just because you're getting a check for this because it's his own production company has made it? I don't know. Jones, I'll start with you because, as I say, you are the biggest Eddie Murphy fan amongst us.
Yeah, I think you could be right there. But he seems to have mellowed over the years since, you know, he started making all the PG movies and, you know, Haunted Mansion and all that there. He seems to have really mellowed. And I think that's the reason why this production is like a 12A. I just think because he's got a load of kids and he's like, I want my kids to be able to watch this or be in this, because one of his kids is actually in it, his middle daughter in the movie. And I think you could be definitely right about that. I think he's a bit too chilled. And if he's going to come back as a stand-up comedian, he's got to get that energy back again. There's talks of him coming back, you know, doing the stand-up again. Yeah, I think he needs to think back to maybe rewatch himself and some of the stuff. Maybe he does. I don't know if he does or not. But yeah, there's a lot of energy missing there. And you're right about. I think Hollywood maybe has. I don't know if it's scaring him or something. You know, this whole comeback trail that he's had recently, where maybe him as himself, he feels a bit self-aware. So under the prosthetics, he's definitely free to let loose a little bit. I don't know what anybody else thinks, but yeah, I think he's mellowed a wee bit too much.
Yeah. Stephen, Cax, Bill, anything you want to throw in?
Dolomite, look at him in Dolomite, man. That performance is superb.
That's, yeah, you know, it's the same director as this. You know, he had such a great time working with that director. I think it's Craig Brewers who directed that, and he said, right, I want you to be the man that does Coming to America, the sequel that we've been wanting to make for so long. And you look at those two films, it's night and day. The performance you get from Eddie Murphy, again, add that caveat when he's not in makeup. He's having a ball as Randy Watson at the end of that film. And I'll come back to something, Stephen, you said about the fact that the barber sequence didn't maybe get as many laughs, even Randy Watson. I think it's because they're all in the trailers. So much of it is in the trailers that you kind of go, okay, well, I know that's going to happen. I know they're going to go back there. I know that Randy Watson is going to come back at some point. I know that the priest, or not the priest, the kind of the character,
Reverend?
the Reverend, that's the word I'm looking for. Thanks, Bill. That Arsenio plays.
Yeah,
is good. Can I also throw in something else as well? How I was pretty impressed, and I mean, I'm someone who does not like digital de-aging. If that's the case, if that was what was going on, because I know the digital de-aging, like we see on previous podcasts, me talking about the Mandalorian season 2, I can just take you out of a moment. I thought the digital de-aging for early on as a way of kind of explaining why we have this bastard air and making sense of things. You know, again, Leslie Jones, I think, steals that scene. I think I am a big fan of her as a performer. I think, well, whether I want to mention Ghostbusters, the female reboot, you know, I know that film does not have a lot of fans, but I think it's a film that wasted the talent of 4 funny women. And I think Leslie Jones got hit the hardest with that. And whether it is a racial thing, the fact that she was the black performer amongst it, I don't know, because I think she had to leave Twitter as a result of the kind of nastiness that she was getting. I don't know if it was all social media or if it was maybe Twitter or Instagram. But this film at least reminded me is that actually she's a funny performer. She was one of the few performances in that film that actually got not belly laughs, but a few maybe kind of you know few chuckles. But I thought she was good. But that digital de-aging, apart from a couple of stuff with Eddie Murphy,
I was going to say there was a part where she jumps him on the sofa. He's on the sofa, and it was very ropey, I thought. Because I was like, oh, that's bad. But there's other bits that were okay. I do get that.
It was seamless for me.
For Arsenio, it was.
I couldn't believe it. It's like, is this footage that they'd filmed from the original one? And it's just the way that they blended it all together. It's like it was seamless, beautiful.
But watch the bit on the sofa, Bill. The bit on the sofa.
It's a bit on the sofa. But it's fast cutting though. So,
but the Arsenio stuff was really good. It was excellent.
Crazy.
It was so good. But no, I mean, the Leslie Jones thing. I mean, the only thing about Leslie Jones is you're going to get the same. It's she plays the same character in every film. Anything I see her, and it's the same thing. So. Fair dues, you got what you got from her, kind of thing. But I was going to go back to something that you were saying about Bill was saying. I want to go back to what Bill was saying about the age thing and all that. There, I still get that. I know what you're talking about, but I go back to the story. The story was terrible. I just don't.
There's a couple of plot holes, like. Definitely. I mean, it's like literally why did we just get on the back of this eagle and go and destroy the ring? It's definitely up that scale. It's like why do we need to orbit a planet to destroy the planet's moon? Why don't we just destroy the planet?
Yeah.
Just obvious plot holes. Indiana Jones doesn't even need to be there.
That's true.
Just saying.
Don't go down there.
That's not true.
Can I mention another thing? I'm just be interested to see what you think. Again, this is a part of all men. I felt that Lisa, that was meant to be this great inspiration for Akeem from the first film, and this I hate to use that term, but this commoner, that's the term that they use, that he decided to marry from Queens, the love of his life. I felt for a large part of the film, she was really shortchanged. She had nothing to do.
Yeah.
And the only time when she's got near the end, she's got a little bit of kind of stuff on screen and stuff that's kind of critical to the plot. But, I'm sure she picked up a paycheck, but I'm sure that woman has got to be kind of looking at the screenplay, kind of going disappointed in what it served her up compared to when you look back at the first one.
Yeah.
in what her character got to do. Yes, okay, she's again the first one has all those same issues that we look back now on film from the 80s. You can critique things and you can look at things of how the kind of gender equality has changed. And we'll not go down that route too much, but I did think that her character for this film, this sequel, to be such a big part of Akeem's life and the woman that he loved. And I come back to the point Bill I was talking earlier on. I wouldn't imagine someone like Lisa, this woman from Queens, not having an issue with the fact that, you know, none of our daughters can become queen of the country. None of them can be ruler. It's a small niggle. Maybe it's because, you know, kind of now you kind of have to look at things slightly differently and look at things with more depth. But I felt
I thought that whole thing was a wee bit outdated.
Hmm.
You know, I think we talked about this earlier. Anyway, that sort of concept is why are you still writing these kinds of stories?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I mean, we've had the likes of Black Panther and things like that, where it shows, you know, it shows a society where, you know, males and females coexist, and they're both, you know, both equal, both warranted, both have agency, that sort of thing. And then you get to this, and it's like, why was that even a thought? Why were you even thinking this was your major plot point? Because, you know, it only takes, put it like this, it would only take the woke brigade to come in, and that film is toast. It is gone. It is cancelled.
I don't mind that being in there. That whole like that Zamunda's behind the times and traditions and stuff like that. But that was the good way. Just as Jim brought up Lisa's character there. There's your way of doing this movie without doing the whole, oh, I have a son, I have a kid back here, let's go get a kid. Why not have it that she's fucking fed up with this bullshit Zamunda is, what, my daughters can't be queen? You know what? Fuck you. I'm taking my daughters and moving back to Queens. And he's going back to where we're back. Maybe that's his fucking reason to go back to Queens and go back to America. Like, you don't need to fucking bring in the sun in the air and all that bullshit that didn't happen.
Cax, I'm just going to say it was like having Shari Headley there right in the podcast with your kind of performance as Lisa there, just the way you were going. I just felt it like it was almost like Lisa was there right there with that performance. But yeah, I agree. I'm looking on IMDb. I'm not going to say I just came up with this off the top of it, but there's 7 screenwriters involved in this, and you just sit and go, okay, I'd imagine it's coming back to that point. I don't know this for certain. It's, you know, completely conjecture. It feels like they've maybe had one idea for a script, because I've been I don't know if any of you are massive Halloween fans. There's the Taking Shape books that have been released where it talks about kind of the Halloween projects that have never been made. And this is clearly a project that's been in development for a while. Maybe one screenwriter has done one kind of option, one screenplay. Next screenwriter has come in and said, right, well, we'll add this and we'll add this. And it comes back to that thing where it feels like 2 screenplays just pushed together. And I don't know, maybe it needed another draft, or maybe it needed someone to come in and say, right,
too many cooks.
Yeah.
It's like WWE wrestling. WWE wrestling for many years was Vince McMahon and Pat Patterson. Right, we'll do this. Then he got a load of writers in, and look how shite it is now. Mm-hmm. And that's what it is. That a lot of the time it is what it is.
It's like a Beyonce song. There's like 20 writers, and all she says in it is like the one line over and over again. We run the world, girls. It's like, I could write that for you.
But yours would be about 15 minutes
here, lads. Had any you got any money on before Jones mentioned or brought up that he was in a band? If Bill was going to talk about Star Wars, how long before? Like, I'm clocking at this nearly 45 minutes here, and we've kind of got, here, Jones, you're in a band. So how many writers write your songs?
Well, it did 15 writers because it's not fucking long. It's just 15 songs put together.
Writer verse.
It's not 15 writers. It's 15 hours a song. Long play.
I just want to mention, like a wee honourable mention, a small pinhole of light in there. I didn't mind Wesley Snipes in this.
Yeah, he was all right.
Yeah, it was very good.
I loved him as a performer. I wish again he was given something funnier.
Yeah, Yeah,
Yeah, it was. I thought he would have had. I'm going to say, I thought he would have a bigger part. He was kind of just. He appeared every so often, and that was it.
Mm.
You know, again, there was like there was two different storylines, and you know, the one thing I remember in the movie, they kind of wanted to take the piss of themselves. It says make it unnecessary sequels.
Mhm.
And the more I watch this, I feel actually, yes, this was an unnecessary sequel. And going back to what you were saying, Jim, I feel it was a payday. I do feel it was kind of nostalgia, makes money. So,
Well, I think it's coming back to that point. I think there's undeniably so much goodwill for that original. And you know what it did and what it did for Black performers and Black culture and putting them on screen. And, you know, okay, yes, it was directed by John Landis, but it was a largely Black cast all at the time in the 80s, and it was a box office success. And there's and you see that with the amount of cameos and the amount of people that are prepared to kind of come back and offer their time. So you see that. But I actually had scribbled that down in my notes, because to be that cocky to make that type of joke, you need to have a funnier film. And it's almost got a sense that it's like you're just shooting yourself in the foot when you throw in that type of line. When I'm not going to say it's smug. I'm not going to say it's smug, but it's just that sense like I know what they're trying to do, and they clearly think it's a funny line, and I know what they're going for. But the product that then you're serving up itself needs to be funnier for people not to kind of go, fucking tell me about it. I'm watching an unnecessary sequel. But anyway, that's my little kind of ramble. I will talk about another performer we haven't really talked about here, who again I thought was marginalized, not given a lot to do. I mentioned him briefly earlier on. Arsenio Hall isn't given that much. So yes, he's got a few, again, under prosthetics. He's great, but there wasn't enough of him for me. And I'm thinking back, it was again, looking back to the original, like Eddie Murphy was playing the straight man, and Arsenio Hall was trying to get most of the gags in the first one. He's not really.
He was kind of like not needed. And again, I think going back to what Bill was saying, you know, the story was about the son. So Arsenio was kind of there out of, again, a bit like Sammy's here. Hey,
nostalgia.
You know,
it was just nostalgia.
Yeah, that's what it felt like. You know, Arsenio Hall's not been about for a while. Like, you know, he's you know, as a mainstream guy. So
I tell you what really annoyed me, and they missed a fucking trick. If it was us, we would have done it. And it's, you know, the way he has the sort of like the father-son talk. But it's Cleo that he's talking to in the restaurant. If it was me, I would have had Akeem walking in the fucking plains of the thing, and he just would have heard the Akeem. I would have looked up, and it's the clouds would have fucking parted, and it would have been Mufasa himself. I mean, they even mentioned Mufasa a couple of times, and it's like, why did nobody pick up on that's how you should have passed on the information. That's such a great callback, and it's so funny to me, even just thinking about it, just seeing James Earl Jones's face in the clouds.
Do you think though it is funny, but do you think that ventures too much then into kind of like I'm only going to say this because I watched it, like that time at Meet the Spartans kind of scary movie. It ventures too far into that.
I get that, yeah.
Sort of, but have you watched Keanu?
Mm-hmm.
Did you watch the film Keanu?
Oh, I just thought, man, have you watched Keanu?
No, it's the Jordan Peele and the other Key. It's the Key and Peele film about the wee cat. About he goes on the quest to get the wee cat back. He's called Keanu. There's a lovely wee bit in that when it's Key takes he accidentally takes drugs, and he goes up into this fucking thing, and he does this dance with George Michael, Faith. It's lovely wee sequence, but then sobriety kind of hits him, and it's the cat. It's like a dream of the cat is talking to him, and it's voiced by Keanu Reeves. It's that kind of thing that people like. That people, you know, stuff that crosses over.
Yeah, I mean, I think
We
there's
like
one.
that.
Looking at IMDb, I think there's one small one that probably might be lost on us here in the UK. We have James Earl Jones, who's briefly here in the film, but I think because he does the voice of This Is CNN, and then they have
Yes, and it's this is
ZNN.
WZNN, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's a small thing. Yeah, I get it. But I think kind of personally, I just think for the film to have done that, I agree. I would have found it funny. I think it would have probably been funnier than what we got. But I think it's venturing too far into
I'm
parody.
available for 3.
You know, if they need that 8th screenwriter, there we go, Bill Taylor.
There you go. Although we did call when this movie was announced. We were us boys were sitting up at Jones's house one day, and we were like, just shooting the shit about the film coming out, and we were like, "Fuck, wouldn't it be funny if your woman's still hopping on one foot?"
Yeah.
On the whole.
I did laugh at that though. I did laugh at that.
So did we. We wrote that. We should actually try and get royalties for that because we thought of that collectively.
If you check up the 7 writers, screenwriters, our 4 names not in there.
I'm Barry Blaustein. Don't know
Yeah.
if you know about it. That's my.
That's your alias for all
That's
these years.
that's your writing name, is it?
Yeah, well, you know, I love wrestling, Bill, and you know, I
Yeah,
did
Jim.
the Beyond the Mat stuff, you know, so
Oh yeah, love your documentary.
it's great. Thanks.
Jim.
Go on ahead, yeah, Cax.
Sorry, I want to throw one back towards yourself there, being the host. Do you think this movie is missing Landis, or like when you think about Blues Brothers 2000, is it not missing Landis?
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I love John Landis. He's off his time. Like, what was the last one he did with Simon Pegg? Burke and Hare? He did,
Yeah.
which was okay. You know, I think it's fine. I don't know. I don't even know. Is he involved in any way in this? I don't even think he's a producer. I'm not.
He gets a credit, but he only gets a credit because they use footage from the original film.
Was
in
it?
it.
I don't know the honest answer to that. Like, could you have done a thing like kind of would have maybe liked to have seen, you know, what they're doing with Ghostbusters? Okay, we haven't seen the newest Ghostbusters. It's pushed back to next year. Like, instead of Ivan Reitman, it's Jason Reitman with Max Landis.
Is it next year now?
Yeah, I could be wrong. I could be wrong in that. You know, it's changing all the time.
Sick.
But maybe Max Landis doing this.
Yeah, Max. Yeah.
I don't know. I think the honest answer is, and I'm not going to say this film's a turd, but I don't think the best director couldn't polish.
I was just
of a script. It's not. It's got all the goodwill. It is drenched in nostalgia. I know our very own Therese Ray loved it. She put it on Facebook when I said we were recording this. She just said it's got all the callbacks, all the nods, and it was there. And maybe, you know, I'll throw this out to you. You know, Bill, you mentioned this. The fact that we're watching this in lockdown. You know, are we looking at this differently because of the situation? We've been in lockdown. We're watching it from home. I think I would be a lot, not nastier, a lot harsher towards this had I paid money to go see this at the cinema. I think streaming and not even being PVOD, where you have to pay $15.99, just being, you know, free to air, you know, on Amazon Prime. I can't remember what was Paramount. Paramount have clearly sold it. I think they clearly thought they might have had possibly a stinker. I don't know. They got good money. It's doing well on Amazon Prime. I think it's their most watched film currently as we record. But, you know, starting with yourself, Stephen, just because I'm looking at the screens and you're beside me here, you know, do you think, you know, watching this at home, you know, again, we'll throw in lockdown. I guess that's kind of a weird situation that we probably be in.
I don't think so. Again, I'm just going by my experience of watching it. It just wasn't. No, it didn't make any difference to me. I don't know about lockdown. Yeah, again, if you want to watch something that's just got it's got all the callbacks, brilliant, and that, don't get me wrong, the callbacks were great. It was like, oh, great, it's like seeing old friends again. But you know, it just doesn't. It just was a disappointment. I'm going to harp on about the storyline. When I watch a movie, I want to watch a story. You know, and I think that's missing a lot now. There's not many good stories about anymore. You know, there's a lot of rehashes, and then when they do these sequels, it's a lot, with the long gaps. It just turns into a nostalgia thing, and I'm like, no, it's not for me. And I'm sorry, I'm Mr. Negative tonight.
That's all right, Stephen. That's okay. Jones, what about you? You think watching at home, you're someone who works in a cinema, cinemas are currently closed. Do you think you'd maybe have a different reaction? Okay, you probably get in free anyway because you work there. But had you paid to see this, do you think you'd had a different reaction? Would you be harsher? Or do you think the fact that, right now we're here in lockdown, maybe a film that's, I'm going to say it's trying to give you a warm hug, that warm hug of nostalgia. Okay, maybe it's not worked for all of us here. Bill's, it's clearly the work the most for. But do you think watching at home is probably the right place rather than, trips and out to the cinema and paying whatever it is, admission and all our shite that we go when we get to the cinema? Watching at home is maybe the best place for it.
Well, it was meant to be out in August last year in the cinemas, and then that's when it was sold on. I think if you're in a decent, if you're in the cinema with a decent amount of people, I think you might have giggled a bit more, or might have laughed out loud a wee bit, because that kind of becomes infectious. So you might have come out of it going, that wasn't too bad, until you got home, and then the next day you'd start thinking, shit, maybe actually it wasn't that good. Maybe I was just laughing along with people. So I don't know how the cinema experience would be for that, but I've been to see a lot of stuff like Zoolander 2, Anchorman 2, and it's not been a great experience. So yeah, I don't know. All I can say is I've watched it twice now, and I'll probably never ever watch it again. But I'll rewatch to America from the 80s, and not a problem. I'll watch that once a week, even. You know what I mean? Love it.
You've made a really good point. I actually think in a roundabout way, Jones, I think had I watched this with an audience, I don't think the laughs would have been there. And I think that would have probably actually, for me, made this a worse experience. I think it's come back when I'm just watching it. I was watching it here with my wife. My wife was actually crocheting. She wasn't giving it full attention while she was watching. And I was kind of sitting there going, it's going to get funny. It's going to get funny when they get back and he gets the air, or when he gets back to Queens to see if it's changed or not. It's going to get funny. I was waiting for the film to really get into gear. But I think had I sat with an audience watching that, where you kind of, I'm not saying you should, but where everyone's supposed to be giving the film its full attention, and the laughs not being there, and just the fact you mentioned, Anchorman 2, Zoolander 2, that might have been the same thing, where the laughs aren't there in a cinema auditorium. You start to think this is maybe worse than what it is. But that's me. Cax, what about you? Watching at home, do you think it was probably, do you think you were kind, even though you're not positive about it, do you think you were kinder on it because maybe you watched it at home?
Well, I think as you're mentioning, watching that with an audience, you'd pretty much, if you want to know how that would have felt like, that's pretty much what the audience felt like when they watched us support the Hardy. So there you go. Can't give a shit. I think as you were talking about that, did it make a difference watching at home? My mind immediately shot to Wonder Woman 84, because I watched it at home at the time and I paid for it, obviously, the stream, and I watched it, and I'm watching it going, I'm trying to like this. I'm trying to fucking like this. I'm not in the cinema. It's Gal Gadot. We love her. We love the first movie. I'm trying best. Kind of like Kirsten Wiig is doing a good enough job. I'm trying to convince myself that I like this movie. When I sat back after, I was like, I kind of stunk. And I don't know, man. I felt the same Wonder Woman in the cinema with the whole big experience. Would it have changed my mind? Probably not, really, man. So no, I can't even fucking give that to Coming to America. I think you're right in what you're saying. If you were sitting watching Coming to America in the cinema and nobody was laughing, I'd get that fucking warm feeling where you're taking a beamer. I'd be like, oh fuck, it's tanking, man. And I'd feel bad for the film. You know what I mean? I'd just be like, let's walk out of here.
I was getting that wee warm face today because I watched myself last Friday, and then I was saying to Kathy, I have to do a rewatch of it. So, do you want to watch it? She fell asleep halfway through it.
Yeah, but Jones, see when you say you got that warm, feeling on your face, were you not just sitting, at the window and the sun was coming in? Maybe is that why?
But, raw vodka, Jim. Raw vodka.
Can I actually just pick up Caxton something you said there, because I watched, because I'm a huge fan. I don't want to go down talking about Wonder Woman 1984 because I actually, to throw the kind of grenade in the pond, I actually like Wonder Woman 1984. I do think of it as
shit.
I do think.
Oh my god!
I think of it.
Oh fuck no!
I knew
What
that
have
was
The
you
gonna-
fucking
done,
magic,
What
the
have you
magic
done?
monkey paw. No, thank you.
I thought of it
Jesus
as
Christ!
I thought of it as Patty Jenkins' Batman Returns, and I think
Oh,
without going into that, listen back to the podcast where we talked about it, where I was the only person of the three of us who tried to defend. I got what Wonder Woman 1984 was trying to do, and I think had we not had COVID, had we not had lockdown, I probably would have watched it with a lot and been a lot harsher towards it than some. I just think in the time when I watched it and what it was trying to do about that we want our superheroes to be truthful and tell the truth, I liked that. But I don't want to get stuck into that. That's a discussion for
that's
another
a bad
pod.
film.
It's a discussion for another day. But
They
I wanna-
steal a boy. They
Yeah,
literally
yeah.
steal a fella.
Look at you done, man.
They fucking literally steal him.
Cax, right. I'm gonna have to mute Bill at some point. But Cax, I wanna pick up on something you said because you paid one to watch Wonder Woman 1984. You went down the premium rental route. I did that a couple of weeks ago with Barb and Star go to Vista Del Mar, right? I do love Kirsten Wiig. I love her as a performer. But I did not like that film. Now I paid $15.99 to watch that for the privilege and to kind of watch a film that is just a mess from start to finish. From the film that the two women that wrote Bridesmaids, a film I love, and you just see that as a mess. I think I was a lot harsher to that because I fucking paid $15.99 to see that. You know, it's going back to like I would have paid a cinema ticket. I would be a lot harsher to see stuff. Maybe I don't know. Maybe it's if I got sent a screener. I got sent a screener by Warner Brothers for Wonder Woman 1984, and maybe that's why. Because I'm not as harsh, but I also went to pay to see it in the cinema, so I'm not going to say that because I went to see it at the Odeon before it closed. But do you think just going back to that thing we talked about, paying to see Wonder Woman and being disappointed? We're talking here about this being streaming. Had this been a PVOD, Cax, do you think you would be coming onto this pod a lot angrier, having paid $15.99 to see something that is a lukewarm comedy at best?
Probably, man. Probably, yeah. There's a lot of the times me and the missus are sitting here watching like on your Now TV when your movies you've missed in the cinema come on, and you sit down and go, oh fuck, let's sit down and check it out. Lost Jedi is a good example. There's one the Fury built. I'm sitting back and going, fucking glad I didn't go to the cinema for that, you know. And I think that rings true for coming to America. I'm glad this wasn't in the cinema, you know. But like we're not out of pocket. Fucking got to watch it for free. So even as a free movie, it was just I didn't lose any money, but fucking just lost a little bit, wee bit of my soul. That was all.
Nearly 2 hours of your life. That's all. So Bill, gonna come back to you. We're not going to talk about Wonder Woman 1984. We're not going to talk about it, right? We're not going down that because we don't have enough time. We'll get you on another pod and we'll talk about Wonder Woman 1984. Do you think kind of watching this at home is probably you've had the most positive reaction? And I don't know if it was a case that you were watching with I don't know if you're watching with all the family because, as we said, you can do this. I don't know. Like the first one, is it an 18, 15, 18?
Yeah.
I think it's is it
Well,
an
the Doom-
18? Well, I don't, it's R-rated anyway, isn't it?
I don't know, being kind of going.
Okay.
I'm going to say because I think I know from off the top of my head. I think is it Stephen and Bill? You're the parents in the room. Kat,
Yeah.
you? I don't know. I mean, have you got around the stage? Have you watched as a family the first coming to America? The first coming to America?
Well, to be honest, I've got like older kids, so yeah. So yeah, they've watched it.
My teenagers seen it.
Yeah.
Well played, gentlemen.
So coming then back then. I mean, did you all watch as a family this sequel?
No, it was just me and the missus.
Okay.
Yeah,
Giles a teenager. She doesn't want to be seen with us.
yeah. Same here.
But do you think kind of watching this at home is probably kind of the kind of watching at home on a rental service rather than having to go down PVOD? Do you think it's kind of you? As I say, you've had the most positive. You didn't have to go out anywhere. You were able to sit your arse down on a comfy sofa and watch it from the luxury of your home. Do you think I'm not saying that's maybe kind of reason why you're more positive, but you think that's played a part. Maybe had you went to say, as we say, go to a cinema, go out, you and your lovely missus on a date night, had to go buy dinner beforehand, then go to the cinema, get your snacks, and then sit your arse down in the cinema seat. Do you think it's an impossible question? We don't know, but do you think maybe you would have a different...
To be honest, I would have preferred that. I enjoy the cinema anyway.
Yeah, so do I. We all do.
I mean, I would have preferred to see it in the cinema. I prefer the cinema experience. That's not to say that sitting watching films isn't pleasant in the house. It is. But I suppose the thing, I think why am I agreeing with him? Jones was right in that the original Coming to America, you could stick that on anytime at all, and you'll sit and watch the whole film in its entirety. And you will not feel like you've wasted your time.
Yeah.
I will probably not
watch it again.
Oh, we've lost Bill, I think.
I thought, see, we know each other so well, I could finish the sentence there.
Yeah.
Bill also wants to add that he probably is the weakest writer in the group.
Yeah.
That us three kind of carry him as well. I'm guessing I'm sensing that's what he's going to say as well.
Maybe my back's broke, for fuck's sake.
It's a perfect little kind of, screen freeze off him too as well. I have to say. I have to say it's quite Zoolander-esque. Matron. I think Bill would also add that he only said in jest that he didn't like Wonder. He's gone. He didn't say in jest that he didn't like Wonder Woman 1984, and that he absolutely loves The Force Awakens, and at no point shouted up bullshit in a packed screening. That's all a myth that has just been built up about.
No, and private he has told us how much he loves that movie. I find it's all bravado, man, and he loved Wonder Woman 1984. I mean, he told me that he wept after it, and with just how much he enjoyed it.
Yeah. Look, we'll not get. Well, there's a possibility Bill might come back. Right, we don't know. He might be away to watch Coming to America again. I don't know. Maybe that's what he was going to say. I'm going to go watch it now and just left. I don't know. But if he does come back or doesn't, whilst we wait for Bill to possibly reappear, one of the last questions I did want to ask you, gentlemen, and Cax, you raised this first, that idea of the comedy sequel. It's always problematic. I can't think of great comedy sequels that aren't kind of leading to franchise, but comedy sequels that are back after a long time. We've mentioned Anchorman 2. We've mentioned Zoolander 2.
Dumb and Dumber.
Unless there's something I'm glaringly obvious that I can't think of. I can't think of a great comedy sequel to a film that, like a great one and done that was a great comedy. We even could to an extent here throw in kind of the Hangover movies. I'm not a massive fan of them anyway. I don't enjoy that type of masculinity and that ultra kind of masculinity and the kind of crudeness. Give me something like I Love You Man any day over the Hangover, but that's just me. Comedy sequels kind of that have come back after a long time, I can't think of any real gems. Can you, gentlemen?
No. There's comedy partnerships that are able to come back in a different movie, as in Gene Wilder, fucking Richard Pryor, and different movies.
God, you're showing your age there, Cax.
I know. Can't think of anything recently, man. But he can come back as a duo, a successful duo. But you're right, a successful comedy sequel. The main boggles, man. I'm fucking stretching to fucking think of one.
I suppose the closest we can think of more recently would be someone like Nick Frost and Simon Pegg. They can come back and do different things.
Yeah.
And do that.
I know you can go down the road if, by God love us, we're gonna if you're thinking comedy sequels, your American Pie 5, 6, 7, and 8, and Police Academy 32 and whatnot. Every one of them, it just gets that bit more lukewarm, doesn't it? Police Academy 3 is comedy gold, Cax.
Is that Citizens on Patrol? That's
That's
Comedy
right.
Gold.
That's the fourth.
That's the
Oh,
pub,
for
To
it.
be honest with you, American. You talk about American Pie. I actually quite like the American Pie one, the last one. I kind of liked it.
Oh, Reunion.
Yeah, I know. It was all right. I got
I
some
like-
good laughs.
I like 3. I wasn't a massive fan of 2. American
No,
Pie
2
2.
was shite.
It just tried to do the same thing again, but in a summer house. American Pie 3, I think it's The Wedding. I kind of liked
Yeah.
it. It's
Yeah, it
funny.
was okay.
But I know,
Jim-
like, go ahead.
Here's one film on, like, here's another reason why coming to America should have a black mark against it, man. Look at Dumb and Dumber 2. Did they not say that and go, "Oh fuck, that's close to the bone of what we're thinking"?
Yeah.
I'm back to the money.
Avoid that.
That's why I keep thinking money. You know what I mean? The bunts.
Like,
Johnson.
oh, Harry's got a child. Oh no, it's Lloyd's child. Doesn't matter whose fucking kid it was. You just went down the whole road of, oh, look, what could the story be? He's got a child, and they've done the same thing. With this. They're not the same Dumb and Dumber went, fuck it, let's rethink this. You know?
I wasn't a fan of, isn't it Dumb and Dumber? Is it Dumb and Dumberer or Dumb and Dumber 2? Because there's the 2. There was the one that was kind of like the
Yeah.
prequel when they wouldn't come back and they said, right, we've got an idea, which I wasn't a fan of anyway. The sequel, I mean, I love Dumb and Dumber. I have such a soft spot for that film, but the sequel didn't
They're
work.
horrible.
And it's
Yeah.
the same with Zoolander 2. Zoolander was a film I was ready for, and you just kind of go, really? That's the best you cooked up? No, hey, I'm not going to say I didn't. I mean, I was that one guy, and there's nothing worse when you watch a comedy in the cinema and there's one guy laughing. That would have been my fear, you know, sitting in Coming to America, the new one, and sitting in the screen with Bill and just hearing Bill laugh, and that's it, right?
But Bill would have been like Cape Fear. You know?
Why is he smoking? Bill doesn't smoke. He's doing it in his head. But I think we have him back. But I'd be funny if he was just smoking. But no, I don't know. Like, I remember, like, there's one sequence in Zoolander 2. It's with Will Ferrell, who's not someone
Right,
known
he's
for
back
comedy
with
gold.
this.
There, he's back. He's back with that same face. You know, we're just surprised by all the things you kind of talked about there when you were off. How much you loved Wonder Woman, how much you loved The Force Awakens. You know, your stance as a writer amongst the Sixth Sense. It was very honest of the things, you know, that you said in your absence. But no, we were just saying, Bill, about comedy sequels.
Thank you.
That have of original comedy golds that have resurfaced after several years. They very rarely strike the same comedic gold. I suppose you can't hit lightning, you know, the same lightning, or is it lightning in a bottle? You can't get it second time round. It's like, I'm gonna go out there and say, like, someone like Phil Lord and Christopher Miller with like the Lego Movie, and to extent with 21 Jump Street. They're great at what they do for coming back and like changing your. Who thought the Lego Movie would be genius? Who even thought 21 Jump Street would be funny? But when they come back and do it the second time around, it might still be funny, but it lacks the same wow factor. I don't know. For me, this is definitely another one of those sequels to something we didn't really need. It's nice to be back in those people's company and that their time, but it's just not really funny enough to justify my time. But since you haven't had a chance, Bill, to talk, you know, because your internet has died, you know, where are you going to weigh in here on comedy sequels?
He put a pound in the meter there, so he's for another 5 minutes.
Is it a pound and a pound in the meter for Bill or the electric?
He's like the Zoltan machine.
Pick one.
One of those wind-up ones, that's what it is.
I've got an inbuilt card swiping machine, if you know what I mean.
Mhm.
He's like C3PO, you can turn him on and off.
Oh yes.
So, Bill, comedy sequels.
Are there any good comedy sequels?
Not really many at all.
But the thing is,
I mean,
when we say this, though, there's always something
there's not
glaringly
many.
obvious that we've missed. There's always something that's glaringly obvious.
Yes, Ventura.
Oh,
No.
Is it though, Cax? When's the last time you watched it? That's the thing.
About 35 years ago.
That's the thing. You know, when you're up, well, go back and rewatch them, and you're like, Oh, it's a bit like the early. I had this discussion with my lovely wife because every year around Super Bowl time, we always watch The Waterboy, and you go, oh, Adam Sandler, comedy gold back then. You know, where did it all go wrong? And then you watch. I found myself watching Billy Madison and going, oh, Adam Sandler's actually a bit of an annoying bastard, but even back then. And you feel ashamed. I think we talked about this on the Steve Martin episode. You feel dirty. And you go, I find this funny. And it's maybe not to the extent of like going back and look at Eddie Murphy's. Let's keep it to an extent on point with Delirious. Looking back at that and kind of going, ooh, I laughed at that. People laughed at that back then. You wouldn't get that now. But like the Adam Sandler stuff, Billy, even Happy Gilmore, I find myself going, I don't find this as funny now. Maybe I'm just getting old and grumpy, but I can't think. And I always know this when we say this, and someone will then
Naked Gun 2.5.
There you go.
Yeah,
because
Naked Gun.
I'll give you that.
And Naked Gun 3. Hey, we're going to possibly get Naked Gun movies with Liam Neeson involved, and I'm actually thinking that's so weird and out there. That might work if Liam Neeson's playing it straight. I don't know it.
He does have comedy chops, you know that by.
Yeah.
Neeson was nice too short.
Liam Neeson doesn't have acting chops. Have you ever seen The Big Man? Jesus Christ.
Right. Darkman was something else, man.
Jesus Christ.
I can't remember. I've interviewed him, and he was. I do remember him trying to be funny when I interviewed him. It was for one of his kind of Taken-esque action movies. It was the one on the train. I can't remember what it was called. And I was interviewing him, and he tried to be funny. And it was a case of like, if there was tumbleweed on the red carpet behind at any point, it would have been perfect. But part of me thinks it could be so out there that it might, rather than trying to get again, it's the thing, you know, you're not going to replicate The Naked Gun, because I will say this, and this is a podcast we are looking to do at some point in the future, our lockdown heroes, the kind of movies or TV series that have got you through lockdown. And I know in January, I was feeling really, I don't know, I'm not being melodramatic, but I was feeling really down. It was just kind of all the lockdown shite had gotten the top of me. We had to self-isolate because of we had a COVID scare with my parents, and I was sitting at home because it came down, and it was just, this is shit, this is not going to end, this is going to go on. And I threw on, I think it was on Sky, and they had the Naked Gun movie on, and I was like, right, fuck it, I'm going to put that on. And I properly belly laughed. Then they had the Naked Gun 2 on. And they put the third one on. Is it The Smell of Fear? Or no, Smell of Fear, I think it's the second one. I can't remember.
33 1/3 is I think it is.
33 1/3 is the third one. Second one, Smell of Fear.
Yeah. And I watched the three of those films, and I properly, genuinely, I'm not just trying to be melodramatic. It's the idea when people kind of say, oh, comedy, it's a bit piffy. How those three films really in one night just properly lifted my mood.
Oh, Hot Shots Part 2. Hot Shots Part 2.
Airplane. Fucking Airplane.
Airplane 2. It has its moments, but
Airplane 2 is not as good as the first one, but it's still good.
And the first one makes me cry with laughter. I just love that film so much.
Yeah.
It's the kid singing. It's the kid singing. She knocks the fucking thing off. I'm tears then.
That's brilliant.
Jones, you've been a bit quiet, you know, so I know we haven't given you an opportunity to talk about the band or anything like that, but come on, let's talk about
writing the song about this.
I'm just
someone's knocked the window.
I'm reading the first verse.
You know, don't worry, you'll take you 15 minutes to write and like a minute to scream through it, but you know, where are we going with comedy sequels here? What's you haven't said much, Jones. Where you went in here?
The same thing, like you were talking about. You're definitely not getting a comedy sequel 20 or 30 years later that's going to be funny. It just doesn't seem to work. But you can, like some of the stuff that the boys have mentioned there's definitely some sequels, you know, that happens within 5 years, like Ghostbusters 2, that type of thing. You'll get some comedy gold again because I guess it's fresh or something, and they haven't thought about it too much. I think it's whenever they thought about it for years and years and years, and then it just doesn't seem to work. I think it needs to be fresh in their minds coming off the movie, like get straight into work on that sequel, and maybe it'll work, you know. So
yeah, I mean, I'm the one that surprises me, because you mentioned it, Ghostbusters 2. which I have a huge love for. I mean, I love that film, but I mean, I know the people involved, like, well, Bill Murray hates it. Dan Aykroyd all kind of say, you know, that was the Ghostbusters film out of the 3 that have been made so far, that have been released so far. That was the one that was made for commercial gain, and it showed that. And you know, I still get surprised because I mean, I love that film. And then when we had Ghostbusters coming out in 2016, you kind of hear all the stuff about Ghostbusters 3, why didn't happen, and basically because Bill Murray hated his time making Ghostbusters 2. He didn't think it was funny enough. He didn't think it was sharp enough. Kind of all what we're saying about Coming to America. And this is going to be a thing that I want to throw out, and I will let you go because it is Friday evening. I'm sure you have better things to do than chat to me. This has definitely, not that my expectations were high.
Don't, Jim.
It's all right, we'll just keep talking to midnight. It's all right, keep going. But I think Coming to America, this sequel has definitely dampened my expectations for, because it's inevitable, it's happening. Beverly Hills Cop 4, and okay, it's not an Eddie Murphy original comedy vehicle, but Triplets. These 2 films are happening. We are having Triplets, the sequel to Twins, with Eddie Murphy being the third brother, the third twin we never knew. He's coming back as Axel Foley.
Jesus.
I don't know. From watching, I come back to that point with watching Eddie Murphy in this. Okay, I know Akeem's a different character from Axel Foley. I just don't know if he's got that energy to do. Okay, maybe throw him under some prosthetics. I don't know. He might do it, but those are 2 projects. Beverly Hills Cop 4, I maybe would have said yeah, because okay, 3's not great. 1 and 2 are gold.
I like 3. I'm sorry.
I like 3 as well.
Yeah, so Jim.
I haven't seen it in a long, long time. Maybe I need to go back and revisit it. But
you don't need to.
Jim, have you seen Wonder Woman 1984?
Do you know, funny you say that, Jones. Funny you say that. I haven't seen the previous 1982, but I've definitely seen 119. I've definitely seen Wonder Woman 1984. There's a good podcast where I tried to defend the film, but you know, the last time we got into that, it made Bill's internet explode. I think along with Bill. So we'll not go there.
That's what happened.
But are any of you kind of like? Well, here's the thing. Were any of you? I know you all mentioned you were talking about this when you first heard it was happening. Were any of you genuinely excited about this, and are any of you genuinely now excited for Beverly Hills Cop 4 and Triplet? I'm just throwing Triplets in there because I know it's Eddie Murphy. It's another nostalgia, feature that has been talked about for years. Apparently, is happening.
I was kind of very nervous about Coming to America. This one, Coming to America.
It'd been perfect if you just said you've been really nervous about coming to America. It's like, no, you're not in America, Stephen. You're fucking in Northern Ireland, mate.
The Americans are nervous about me coming there as well. But no, I was kind of nervous about the movie. I was kind of like, and it was kind of in the first 5 minutes. I was like, yep, I think I might be right here. And I don't have high hopes for Triplets, definitely not. And Beverly Hills Cop 4, it's about 15 years, maybe longer, 20 years too late.
Well, they had a TV movie of Beverly Hills Cop with Axel Foley's son, and I think Eddie Murphy shows up in it. I don't think he's a large role in it, and I think he might have produced it. But apparently Beverly Hills Cop 4 is, because I was looking today on IMDb, that is his 2 projects that are currently in development, Triplets and Beverly Hills Cop 4. I mean, I love Twins. I'm not going to be afraid to admit I love Twins, and it's the film that made you think maybe Arnold Schwarzenegger can do comedy. He can.
Pick up the papers and the trash.
Yak.
Now, granted, I'm going to say this because in terms of what Cax was talking about, Ace Ventura 2 being a good comedy sequel, I haven't watched Twins in a long, long time. And I'm also I want to correct myself. As much as I think Arnold Schwarzenegger is great in that film, Danny DeVito, like always, steals the fucking show. But throwing Eddie Murphy in there, if it's an Eddie Murphy that's, get the fuck out of here, that's as best you're going to get from me from Eddie Murphy. That type of Eddie Murphy, yes. But if it's Eddie Murphy I've seen, and a lot of stuff apart from Dolomite Is My Name, the Eddie Murphy that's there to pick up the paycheck, the kind of that type of performance, I'm out. But Jones, Cax, Bill, any is excited for these? I'm going to say Bill is. Bill's always excited about this type of stuff. So I'll throw to Jones or Cax.
I'll watch them.
Yeah, you will, and you'll like it. I know you will.
As soon as
as soon as your arse sits the sound down in the seat, you'll be, I like this.
So you'll just hear that. Burp, 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 burp. That's it.
You know, I'll definitely watch them. But here, just obviously before we go, I wanted to find out something the other day about a wee project that Eddie Murphy was working on in 1989. I don't know if you know about this, Jim. The boys know now about it. It was a Coming to America pilot that they made, and it's on YouTube if you want to look it up. It's about Prince Akeem's brother. Where'd he come from? Prince Akeem's brother has been sent to Queens to study, and it's pretty bad. Here's one of the lines from it. So he says, "America is the land of opportunity. I can be a Beverly Hills cop. You can be a Beverly Hills cop. Or you can be a Beverly Hills cop too. In 48 hours, we can even be trading places."
See what they did there?
I'm just going, and the story was by Eddie Murphy, and I can obviously picture why they never went ahead with the series part. But once I heard that line, I was like, oh my God, what do we do?
Different times. You wouldn't get that now. But I don't know. Look, of the two, I would love to see Eddie Murphy going back to that energy of Axel Foley.
Yeah.
And the kind of the performer that you can see where he influenced someone like Chris Rock. Like, I think, isn't it Beverly Hills Cop 2? Chris Rock's in. He's really young. And Chris Rock talks about that being the person that he idolized and being able to be on set. Because I don't know if he was starting, if he was already a comedian, if he was ready, or he was just really young and just wanted to be involved. But, you know, that's kind of when you see, and isn't it Chris Tucker? When you see, like, watch Chris Tucker in like Rush Hour, and you kind of go, when he's trying to do the Eddie Murphy stick from Axel Foley, and you go, he's doing it, he's getting away with it.
Sure.
If we see an Eddie Murphy that wants to give that performance, that wants to give energy, and is trying to genuinely be funny, I'll be on board with Beverly Hills Cop 4. But if it's this kind of sitting on his arse, looking very, very monotone, kind of what we were talking about, as I said before, with Steve Martin in some of his latter roles, where it just wasn't his brand of funny for mainstream Hollywood and comedy just wasn't there anymore. His time had gone, and I don't know. You maybe have to reinvent yourself. I don't know, but
I feel in Beverly Hills Cop 4, he's going to be the new captain.
Yeah, that's what I was.
He's about age. He's going to be the captain, so it's going to bring someone else new in. Probably it's probably going to be very similar to Coming to America.
I'll be his son.
There you go. And then at that stage, then what's the fucking point? You know, you just bring out to the inevitability of a fucking boring ass movie. Like, the thing about it is, Eddie Murphy has proved with Dolomite and with his recent appearance on Saturday Night Live that he can fucking. You're still a funny dude. You can still pull this shit off when you want to.
Hey, does that mean Judge Reinhold's coming back?
Who knows?
Dear God.
And Johnny Wishbone.
Well, can I ask you this, right? And I will let you go at this point. You know, I think it was Jones, you mentioned Eddie Murphy is talking about coming back to do stand-up. You know, okay, I get away the nostalgia. Do you think, you know, say, you know, 2022, Eddie Murphy, I think it's still the 3 Arena. I know it keeps changing its name. Tickets are on sale. Are you going to see, would you still have that same kind of bust a gut, gotta go see Eddie Murphy live on stage as a stand-up comedian? Or do you think maybe it's the kind of case it's like, I'm paying for this because of the love I had for it in the past rather than wanting to see him as a performer now?
That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's it.
We're confident for him. So
fingers crossed.
As soon as COVID's off, I'm doing everything. I don't care. I don't care if it's shit.
Did any?
I'll just be glad to be out.
Yeah. Did any of us go to see Chris Rock? Wasn't it last year or 2 years ago? He was in the 3.
We seen him, yeah.
Because he's a performer I'd love to see.
The thing about, like, even that tour, Jim, sorry to cut across you, man, was it wasn't joke, like Never Scared or things that he's done in the past. It wasn't like that. It was more him talking to the crowd, telling stories, talking about his divorce and what he's went through and stuff. And then now and again, now don't get me wrong, he was funny, but for the most part, it was him just addressing the crowd. It was like an audience with Chris Rock, where he was just sitting.
He's kind of doing what Chappelle's doing. Chappelle's kind of very like that now, isn't he? So,
because when you kind of think, like, I know it was a couple of years, maybe 5. Jerry Seinfeld was here. I mean, he's someone I'd love to see. But Jerry Seinfeld, when he's on stage, he's not that type of energetic performer. He's someone who's literally going out with a microphone and his deadpan style and kind of talking to the audience. From what I'm only judging by what the 2 Eddie Murphy stand-up DVDs that I have them in DVD somewhere. He doesn't seem like that. He's someone that, for me, from what I've seen in the past, is built all on energy. And I think I saw him. Was it a couple of years ago? He's on Comedians in Cars Getting Coffee.
That's
I think he was on. And even then, because I think that's where I heard he was talking about going back to stand-up. And I'm going to throw a weird one. To me, it would be a bit like, Billy Connolly. I mean, I love looking back at early Billy Connolly, but the latter Billy Connolly, when he's going at his youth talking about working on the docks, I think I remember at one point in one of the latter kind of DVDs that he released, he's talking about making jokes about swimming with sharks. And you're like, well, how can you really, are you still that same performer? Can you still relate to your audience? Not every fucker's swam with sharks.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's that simple,
I swam with dolphins.
But Billy Connolly tells a good story. And going back to Eddie Murphy, when Eddie Murphy you watch those shows, Eddie Murphy was a rock star back in those days. He was a rock star level of comedian.
Well, he's someone that modeled himself. He modeled himself from Richard Pryor. And he would say, like the same way we're talking about Chris Rock looking up to someone like Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy himself talks about how much he there's a whole part of his routine. I can't remember which of the 2 DVDs it is or the stand-up tours he does, where he just talks about his fucking adoration for Richard Pryor. And when you see Richard Pryor, like, we look back at time, have changed things, but Richard Pryor as a performer is just amazing. Electric, the energy.
But that's what I'm getting at. And in terms of the movies now and all as well, it's going to be a different stand-up. It's like his movies, he's changed. He's got older. That's a young guy who was on top of the world, and the confidence levels were up high. Where it's not. I don't think Eddie Murphy's the same. It's like when you get older, you lose the confidence and stuff as well. Do you know what I mean? He's not got that. Hey, I'm Eddie Murphy. Do you know what I mean? It's a bit like, again, I use wrestling analogies. It's a bit like Ric Flair when Ric Flair came back in his later years, and it took someone like a Triple H to go, "You're Ric Flair? Do you realize you're Ric Flair?" It's like he forgot who he was. I think it's a bit like Eddie Murphy.
Because I think Jerry Seinfeld talked about that. Jerry Seinfeld talked about that being the fact that because he kind of went away from stand-up performing for a while and then kind of forced himself back. And it's that kind of sense of kind of reminding yourself that you are funny.
Yeah.
You might have to change your routine and you might have to change kind of your shtick. Jerry Seinfeld hasn't changed it that much, but and let's not talk about his wife stealing cookbooks. We'll not go down there, but he's still someone. If again going that thing, if Jerry Seinfeld was to pop up at the Odyssey or the SSE and do a tour, I would go. Like it's Steve Martin, Martin Short. I know that they might not be cutting edge at the top of comedy, but I was genuinely gutted last year when that was cancelled. Yeah. And I was kind of going like, I'm really, because I think it's on Netflix, their show. And yes, not all of it was comedic gold, but I was ready for that. I was ready. And the fact that you've seen them and you've seen them live.
Yeah. That's
a lot of that was built on nostalgia. If I had never seen them before in my life and hadn't been a massive fan of Steve Martin or Martin Short, I would have, and you'd show me that Netflix special. I mean, no, you're all right. I'm busy that night. I'm watching Coming to America. But look, I don't really know. Is there anything else kind of just before we wrap things up? Anything else, you guys want to say generally about the film, about Eddie Murphy, kind of before we go?
Dolphins have penises, by the way. Just
I'm curious to find out how you found out about that.
Jesus Christ.
Dolphins, from what I remember from reading somewhere, they're a bit rapey as well.
Yeah. Like a bit of rape.
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Have you ever heard them when they make their signs? It's the Cosby sign to make.
Did you ever see...
it's kind of akin to that.
Jesus.
Ricky Gervais done a bit about dolphins, and one of them's fucking the other one, the blowhole.
Yeah.
You see that? Fucking funny.
There you go, Jim. That's this
So-
podcast took a fucking turn.
There we go. It's just turned into the Sixth Sense pod now. You know why am I not surprised? You know, I'm just, I know that Bill would turn something beautiful. You know, swimming with dolphins with his wife, and I could just imagine Bill just kind of coming up.
You guys
I can see
were
his
talking.
penis.
You guys mentioned rape. You mentioned rape. Wasn't me.
I was just stating well, hang on. You mentioned the penises first, but I could just imagine you, Bill, at the top of your voice. I can see his penis, like a 5-year-old child.
I wouldn't say penis.
What's that?
I'm from Lisburn. Look at his cock.
That's a huge Johnson.
It's like a rocket lolly. Look at it.
The boss has got lipstick out.
Don't.
Mufasa. James
Oh.
Earl Jones just
No.
lets the clouds.
No, we'll never think of poor old.
Stay away from the dolphin.
We'll never think about poor old Flipper the same way.
I know.
I want to know what flip means.
Well, all I want to know, Bill, before we go, was swimming with dolphins and their penises a beautiful experience?
Yeah, I was a young man in Tenerife at the time. It was awesome. Yeah, swimming in the sea. Pissed. Pissed I was.
Shock.
It was awesome. Could have been a plastic bag full of fucking TV balls. I don't know.
Phil was just stroking a pedalo.
My memory's maybe not as good. Maybe slightly hazy.
Do you know what, Bill? I don't even think you were swimming. I just think you're on a carousel, and that's that a dolphin type of thing. Just, this is beautiful. Wife, take a photo. This is fucking beautiful. This I can see his cock. That's yours, Bill. I was like,
CACK.
so yeah. So I don't really know where we go with that. You know, this podcast has took a dolphin-related turn that probably wasn't expected, but it's still,
Jim, it's almost like we done it on porpoise.
No.
Oh, dear.
Here, Cax, I'm just saying, I've just got a message there from Eddie Murphy's agent. So yeah, for that joke, you're definitely not opening for him in 3 Arena. When
Oh, come on, he's having a whale of a time.
Hey. Come on, we'd make a great splash.
Hey.
I Jones, it's all the pressure on you. You need another pun now.
I got one.
It's going to be Jones in a band. I know it's going to be.
Look at his big cock.
You're gonna top that, Jim?
Yeah, no, I'm not even going to try. My simple and easiest option is thank you very much, gentlemen from the Sixth Sense. At this point, just to kind of bring some kind of order, is this the point where we can kind of give you an opportunity? I know we're in lockdown and with arts venues are closed, but is anything now that can give you the opportunity to sell your wares, other than finding you guys in social media at the Sixth Sense? Any online events or anything you've got in the pipeline or anything you maybe don't want to talk too much about now?
It's actually funny you should mention it, man. We're just kind of leading up to this podcast this week. We knew this podcast was happening, so we're on the verge of fucking splitting up. It turned out that Stevie went and married some fucking Japanese art chick, man, and that's fucked the whole thing up,
You leave Toko alone, all right?
Yeah, it's just I know. I think we might do our last gig on a roof somewhere, and it'll be about all this,
Yeah.
Just on top of like the not I was gonna say the Hilton, not the Hilton. That's too posh.
Europa.
Europa. That would be beautiful.
Clayton.
Couple lobbies or something.
Holiday Inn.
Aye.
Holiday Inn car park.
You know what? I was gonna say, you know what? You don't even get to the roof. Just be like, we'll do it in the fucking car park here, lads. Remember that? Remember all the dolphin gags we've got? Just go with that. Start with the good stuff.
Here they call it.
Go strong, go home.
Low hole.
Yeah, it's all right. Don't you worry, lads. We'll still back you here at Banterflix. We've still got those videos.
We love you, Jim. We do love you.
We've got all the highlights here. The 10 minutes of dolphin joke. We've got all the stuff from the festival. We'll maybe get you.
It's all the best.
Beautiful.
You know, maybe get you back next year or this year's Dark Ages to do more comedy stuff. You know, bring the dolphin stuff in. You know, that's what I want to say.
Well,
Give the people.
We are actually filming stuff at the minute. Maybe we shouldn't admit to that, seeing as the cops might come and get us.
No, that's all right.
You know,
if you're not
COVID safe.
If you're not supporting
if
Rangers,
somebody coughs.
If you're not out on the street roaring and shouting about Rangers, you know, winning the league, you know, you'll be all right. No one's looking for you.
Yeah.
You know, that's all right. It's all good.
We are filming, but it's not comedy stuff. It's just personal videos. But that's another story for another day.
Yep.
Watch Pornhub.
Yeah.
That's right.
In bushes.
Times are hard. Times are hard, gentlemen.
Indeed. You've watched the video then?
Yeah, we can already see that, you know, Jones is sitting there. He's the one that's trying to hurt himself out to get some monies for you this evening. You know, he's got the red light on, and I hate to say we've been talking for over an hour now, and I haven't heard one knock on the window at all.
No.
We can wait. I'm doing a podcast, so we can wait.
That's all right. You keep
There's a queue round the block, Jim. There's a queue round the block.
I believe you, thousands.
And that glory hole opens at 11 o'clock.
Lads, it's not Primark, right? There's no fucking queue around the corner, right? It's Jones. If you had said Primark opening, maybe I'd have believed you, but no. Let's not go there. So look, we'll bring this podcast to a close. In these lockdown times, I have enjoyed myself thoroughly. I would love to have said I enjoyed the film. We were originally, remember that, a long time ago, talking about Coming to America. I would love to have enjoyed the film as much as I've enjoyed myself this evening. As always have a laugh when I get you guys on, but it'll probably be a year before we'll have you on again. That's, you know,
that's fair.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder, and I don't know if there's enough absence kind of going on there, but we're not there. So anyway, thank you, Stephen. Thank you, Cax. Thank you, Jones. Thank you, Bill. We'll be back with another podcast pretty soon. But for now, until then, goodbye.
This has been We Need to Talk About Movies. Thanks for listening. For more information, visit banterflix.com. See you next time.